Hello YouTube, this is Eugen here with another Wargame Airland battle video. Today we are tackling France, and to show France's advantage I decided to return to the 4v4 map Telemark for some more 4v4 action in a 4v4 style. So if you remember the 2 points between Charlie and Michael, maybe? I don't know. You know, the ones where the reinforcements are directly across from each other, and I thought that should be a brilliant opportunity to show France at its heart. So as you can see, at the start of this game I had nothing except for one command vehicle, well 2 if you count the one I left in the rear deployment zone, which you kinda do. Anyway, so what I do is capture that and then immediately use that reinforcement zone to start bringing stuff into it. Now this is the second game I tried this. The first game I didn't put as much commitment and I left some rear defense forces, and I found that this didn't carry enough momentum. So I'd advise, if you're doing what I'm going to do, put every single unit you have into this attack and let your allies worry about the other points of the map. So as you can see, I'm bringing the AMX-10 RC SBs, a classic French tank, lightly armoured, powerful and extremely fast. They're the Formula 1 cars of Wargame. So as you can see, I'm bringing in a recon helicopter, recon infantry, 80 gem infantry, mortar rounds and Roland anti-aircraft vehicles. Now I'm going to start off by saying what France's design philosophy is, which is speed. There you go, that's their philosophy. Okay, France is all about very, very, very fast units doing huge blitzkrieg style attacks. I'm not sure where they come up with that idea from, but let's just leave it at that. So as you can see, I've immediately pushed forward. My ally sent some infantry into that town. I'm supporting him with my mortars, shelling the infantry, reading their morale. And basically as soon as one barrage stopped, I start another one. You know, I want to help my guy out as much as possible. Also, in terms of France, they have a lot of infantry, but almost all of them do the exact same thing. They have Legion, and Chasseurs. Basically, the Legion are well-equipped infantry, and the Chasseurs are like 6-point conscripts, I guess you could say. Aside from that, they have some flamethrower-equipped infantry and some 80k Milan 2 infantry. The Milan 2 infantry are actually very good anti-tank infantry, some of the best. And also, because they're French, almost all of them come in the VAB, which is basically a very, very fast vehicle with a machine gun. So as you can see, the artillery barrage has already started. One VAB drove up here, and I don't know why they decided to shell one lone VAB, but they did. No complaints here. Now as you can see, this town is a defense point that I'm going to have to overcome. And what I'm expecting in here are riflemen, maybe some special forces and some 80 km infantry. Also I have to remember that while they hold this point, they can reinforce directly into my spawn at any time they so wish. So what I want to do is secure this town by hammering it and swarming it with infantry, but also save up to buy a command vehicle to neutralise this reinforcement zone, which gives me the key advantage and means that I don't have to spread my units between my rear and the front. Now remember, France is all about one thing, okay? Momentum. The time before I did this, where I didn't put everything I had into the initial assault, it didn't work out for me, okay? Basically, I didn't put enough in to push them over the hill. They got me pinned down at the hill, and basically, when France comes to trench warfare, they're awful. Once you start fighting on a solitary line, for any amount of time, French units get ripped to shreds. French units are very, very weakly armoured, and although they have quite a bit of firepower, they're devastated by artillery. 80 chems just snuff them out, and the more powerful tanks they just struggle to fight against them. So when you're playing France, basically you're thinking of, how can I win within the next 2 minutes? How can I take this position within the next 2 minutes? You always have to be moving. You always have to be on the offensive. And if one offensive stops, you can't think about building up a bigger attacking force. It's just not going to cut it. You go big in the early start with blitzkrieging, or you attack from lots of different points. You know, flank. Always having units in the rear, always swarming them with units, so they don't know where to look. Okay. Those are the only 2 real options that France has if they're going to win: a complete early game blitzkrieg, or a series of short but powerful attacks all along the enemy's front line. Therefore, France is best on the big maps where they have more flanking time to maneuver. and that's why I chose this. Although I guess it could be argued that this isn't a French advantage because you can sometimes struggle to push them back. But overall, I disagree with this. So as you can see here, there's a counterattack going in place with some T-62ZZs, Czechoslovakian units. So as you can see, my tanks were hiding behind the hillside. He was clearly coming in to look at that VAB PC. It's hidden in the woods safely, fingers crossed. And basically what I do is wait until it comes into range and then pop out all 8 of my tanks just to come out and start shooting, out of them. There you go, tank battle 1. These tanks are actually fairly cheap at 15 each, so yeah, just keep that in mind. Here comes another jet coming down. I've got my Roland stopped. It's going to start opening fire. The Roland is a decent plane. As you can see, that actually I didn't really have much to worry about. That was just a 25-point smoke launcher, but yeah, it's dead. Okay, so as you can see, the attack is now going on in full force. I've decided I've dilly-dallied long enough. I've spent about maybe 1 minute when I'm not attacking them, and with France, that's a devastation. You always have to keep moving. Remember that. Movement. So as you can see, another pass is coming in. The Rolands are firing off their missiles. And here comes my Mirage. I think this is a dedicated fighter. I'm pretty sure it is, but it could be a ground attack plane. Whatever it is, that plane's dead. So as you can see, I've moved the Alouette 3 recon helicopter moving up. I want to see what's going on. Unfortunately, they still have a cub in that town. I'm hoping I can't get a line of sight on it, and I'm firing enough, and I also hope I'm firing enough artillery rounds from this mortar crew to keep the cub from being accurate enough. So as you can see, this town is actually a thorn in my side because my tanks can't do much, and I've maybe spent a bit too much on defense. Because another thing about France is, although it's always good and often vital to be charging, to be offensive, you always have to cover your rear, because if your offensive fails, you want to take ground. Okay, the whole point of offensive in this game is you push forward. This will allow you to secure points. You bring in command vehicles, and then you can start out economizing the enemy by bringing more points with them. You have more resources. That means your next attack can be bigger than anything they could have planned. Okay. For example, here I brought out my command vehicle. Now that means, of course, that with every attack it has to be powerful enough to push the enemy back and keep them off their feet. But then again, you must also have units in the reserve to keep your guys alive. Okay, you always have to keep your forces here. In this case, I've got some infantry that are recon infantry and ATKM infantry. Any tank counter-attack solid enough to push my tanks back will get run into a wall of 8 ATKM carrying units. I've also got Rolands. I've got those hot Gazelles, which are very good. France does very fast helicopters, because obviously they're the original inventor of the Gazelle. Very fast helicopters can poke in and out of any situation very efficiently. Now at this stage, my enemies brought some infantry. I don't know why. I think they were planning to get them into the town, but my tanks intercepted them beforehand. Also, France does very well in artillery-based warfare, simply because because the whole point of artillery is it forces you to move your stuff around so it doesn't get shot to oblivion. France is very good at this, so artillery doesn't really affect French units if you don't let it to. So as you can see, our T-62CZ was moved up. Ideally, what they should have done is kept it at range so it could fire ATKMs in my tanks. Because remember, these are 15-point tanks. These are going to go down fast. Okay, these tanks are going to go down fast. But he rushed it in and went in close quarters, the sheer number of the French tanks. And remember, these, French tanks don't make the mistake of thinking just because they're weakly armoured means they're weakly armed. French tanks usually carry pretty powerful cannons and auto cannons. They usually have an F1 strapped on there, and that's a pretty devastating combination. So as you can see, I pushed the tanks into the town. My Gazelles were being in danger of being picked off by the cub, so I thought enough's enough. The infantry must be weak enough, and the French tanks can probably take them at close quarters, so I rushed them in, cubs down. Now as you can see, my tanks are still pushing up. My enemy is making the mistake of not forming a solid defense. What he needs to be doing at this point is building up enough tanks to stop my attack whole. He's buying individual tanks as he earns the points for them, because he's, as a whole, if you look at the map, they're losing control of the map. As they lose control, we can start bringing more units of them. They need to build up a solid defensive line that we cannot break through with these keep tanks. Some heavy armor, some helicopters, some ATGM, some tank destroyers. They need something to stop us whole. Now these like loose T-62s, at this point the AMXs that I have in the front are reaching the end of their useful life. They've been panicked, they're being damaged, they're not effective anymore. So what I decided to do is that the other tanks that have just been fighting Cubs are going to be brought to the front line while these guys are brought to the rear. More MiGs are swarming in. I think these are the smoke ones, it looks like, but I might be wrong. But yeah, so that's the thing. Okay, basically I've decided at this point that the front AMXs are spent, because another thing when you are doing offensive forces, don't just push blindly, okay? If you do that, you're gonna ruin all your units. As you can see there, one of the best points of doing a rush is to know when you've exhausted your rush, okay? So know when your AMXs are, you know, running low on fuel, they're running low on ammo, they've been in combat for too long, so their morale is pretty shaky. Notice all these signs before they cost you. So for example, here I had one AMX unit fighting their reserves, and then when they got the tides turned against them, I retreated them, and then the next AMX group is there, bam. Okay, they've spent all these units not doing too much. Okay, so here's another thing. So here's more T-62s. Again, they're not being used effectively. These tanks, I believe, have the ATGMs, and they're not using them to their advantage. But however, you know, T-62s should still not be underestimated. These are still 15-point tanks I'm fielding against them. So what I do is I decide, right, this is their solid line. Look, they've got Danas firing a point blank range. They've got 3 T-62s. This is not, you know, something that I want to be fighting. So I maneuver my tanks around the forest to buy me some time. I've also been building on my air force. France is quite a good air force. They've got Jaeger A's. They've got stuff. They've got more stuff. Remember, I'm not an air force guy. Fully admit it. Okay, so as you can see here, AMXs are trying to retreat around it, but seeing as they're in the combat, I decided to let them do it. The Jaeger A's are doing a good job of strafing the tanks. I'm trying to just, at this point, they're probably thinking, right, their tanks have been shooting us to pits, let's get stuff to counter the tanks, okay? You always have to be outthinking your opponent when you're rushing as heavily as this, and when you're playing as a nation that is suited to rushing as France is, okay? You have to, okay, keep on the offensive, but you have to outthink your opponent. You have to think, right, okay, my enemy knows I've been throwing tanks at them. He probably doesn't even think I've been throwing the same tanks at him, but I have, okay, so I've been attacking with tanks, so I will respond to this by buying anti-tank defenses, AGM infantry, tank destroyers, helicopters, stuff like that, okay? Now you have to think, okay, so you have to outthink him by thinking, right, he's going to deploy this, so what units should I be buying now to counter it? Now, because he's buying T-62s, I'm buying France's most advanced unit, the 100-point AMX-40. This is a well-armoured tank that still has the mobility, which should handle the T-62s that he's throwing at us in no problem. Also, we're pushing into their spawn, so that's okay. The AMX-40s will do as well. But also, I'm investing in the Air Force, okay? Their Air Force has been severely lacking up to this point, and their air defences have been almost non-existent. We've also pushed them back to their spawn, as you can see. So invest in Air Force and invest in the tanks powerful enough to get the job done. As you can see, OT-62's A's are coming in now. These are equipped with AGM infantry, just like I said. Now remember, this was me playing the match, so I know what's sort of happening, but I didn't remember those were AGM infantry. I'm looking at this as a rusher, and I think he's going to counter tanks. I have to bring up something that can counter what he's countering, Air Force, okay? So that's what you have to be thinking, okay? Now, I'm going to probably finish it in a few seconds, even though the match isn't finished yet, because the match is pretty much over. And also, there's no point splitting this into 2 episodes. There'd be nothing for the second part. So I'm just going to leave you with this. If you really want, just leave in your comments. I can upload this footage, no problem. But that is a rush, okay? That is how you play France, and this is how they roll, okay? Continual rushing, just like this. If that doesn't work out for you, spread your units across the map. Start hitting their flanks again and again and again and again. That's pretty much it. So here's just the final scoreboard, so you can see how I did pretty well. 1500 to 795. This has been unchanged. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.